so the need for the personalization of the Christian life in relationship with the other, sometimes that can happen through marriage, and even in marriages where you're constantly being contradicted. Sometimes people are blessed enough and lucky enough to have close spiritual friendships. And sometimes we're living in a time and place where even though we're reaching out to others who we might be able to both give and receive from, there's not a lot available. Spiritual direction is sometimes a place where people turn to receive more of that Desert Father kind of to receive a word. But therapy could be as well. Could you speak to those forms of soul care and their place in the Christian life, spiritual direction, and even therapy as a place of encounter with God speaking through another person?
Well, I think all the time that self-consciousness is a detriment to being a vessel of grace. And so the problem that I find in America is we're a culture that has colonized the continent and wants to keep on colonizing other continents. And so that mentality is what has to change. It's that sense that a messianic complex that possibly we have that really doesn't help us to live in grace. So many times I think we have to ask God for unconscious self-forgetfulness about what we're doing. And the difficulty about our professional life is it's all self-conscious activity. So that's when I'm a person, I'm much less conscious of being a person, because I'm just my attitude and the shaping of my life, the shaping of my identity is just relational. And I can't imagine how I could live without the other.
Though I can hear my psychologist friends saying, well, that's a fairly healthy person that you just described there. And I'm dealing with people who are so self-absorbed, yes, but so destructive, and there's so much self-loathing or whatever it is that the pathway from where they're at to that sort of place, it looks very very long, and there's going to be a long period of healing, and that's going to involve the ministry of others to come along.
Well, then you want to make sure that such a Christian psychologist doesn't practice psychology in the home as he practices it in his practice.
Yes, I see.
That's why sometimes the children of a psychotherapist are in a worse state than the clients of the psychotherapist.
I have a friend who's a therapist, and he says my clients get the best of me, and he says that as a confession, but what he brings home is oftentimes not the best.
So this is all the self-consciousness stuff, you see, that somehow we have to say, Lord, help me to forget myself.
I wonder, Steve, I think in the situation where we are, the kind of in the midst of things, I have no question that the kind of healing and that can come with a Christian therapist, and the obstacles that can be got out of the way, and that this is a part of what God uses in people's lives right now in healing, and even spiritual direction, even in a kind of ad hoc, freelance, unlicensed, not very ecclesial environment sometimes, is something that absolutely God is using. But I think in some ways it's also a kind of confession of failure, that these things have become divorced from the simple, the ecclesial pastoral life of the church. We're in an unpaid, unclient professional relationship, but just in the context of church ministry, in the context of the Eucharist, in the context of the life of the church, there are the very personal interactions that allow for these things to be addressed. I think certainly in terms of the wisdom that's been gained in terms of psychopathology and the kinds of ways, therapy is going to be important for many people. I think there's no question it's going to be important.
But I think another thing is ageism. I think that the separation of the generations in the church means that all the wisdom that older people could give young people is totally lost.
Yeah.
It's a huge potential that is just uncultivated.
Yeah.
And if there was more intergenerational integration together in our lives, like we used to have as families, but even the old people are now shut off in old people's homes, the result is that all these generational stages of life are totally truncated. And the truncation of that is why there's so much more demand for psychological help.